What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and I think this is going to be a nice, interesting video for the simple reason is what we're going to look at is going to be pretty broad in some aspects, and we're going to look at hows and whys and opinions and theories and predictions and all in there too. So what are we talking about? Well, first off, Square Enix and their upcoming plans. So of course Square Enix and their president specifically their president, Yosuke Masuda, hope I pronounced his name correctly, he basically talked to investors and outlined their plans of the company's business model, I should say, of what they plan to do for the next couple of years and how they plan to make money, essentially. And the way they're going to do it is they're trying to keep a good, steady, even if it is slightly protracted and drawn apart, stream of blockbuster games, preferably one or two, which will launch, every year as their big tent poles, and then they can dot everything around that, their spin-offs or whatever it is. So there's a couple of things that they wanted to look at, and what they've done for that is they showed was essentially a roadmap from financial year 2017 up until what they're going to call 2020. So there's a reason why I said 2020, because I'm going to post a picture of this little roadmap now in a minute, but they do specifically mention 2020 despite it not being on here. So let's take a quick look at this roadmap anyway, and as you'd first expect, Final Fantasy 15, which finally released last year in November, after God knows how many years, was it 10, maybe 11 years of development hell, but you get the point. It released, it sold pretty well, and that's why of course it's on there. They list other big franchises and other games in big franchises as well, including the PS4 version of Rise of the Tomb Raider, which released in financial year 2017, because the PC and Xbox One versions released in financial year 2016. You've also got stuff like Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, World of Final Fantasy, Nier Automata. You get the point. That's the stuff that's already out, the stuff that's had the sales, the stuff that's made the money. And there's also a couple of things on this infograph that they've actually showed that are going to release in the very near future. Dragon Quest XI going to release at the end of the month unless you have a Nintendo Switch, because that version is, well, DOA, well, not so much DOA, but it's MIA at the moment, and Square Enix are remaining extremely tight-lipped about the Switch version for some reason. Final Fantasy, I was going to say 11. 12 Zodiac Age, which is the Final Fantasy 12 remaster, which releases on PS4 next week, which I'm looking forward to picking up and possibly playing again very soon. And then of course you've got their upcoming plans and what they plan to do for the future. And this is where it starts to get pretty interesting, if you ask me, for the simple reason is both in good and bad ways. So let's take a look at it. So what did we have on that infograph anyway? Well, of course, the two biggest upcoming games from Square Enix, despite them having no proper full release date or anything at the moment, are naturally the Final Fantasy VII full remake, as well as Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, where all this starts to get a little bit messy and a little bit, bad in some ways, is yes, these are going to be two big high profile games. Kingdom Hearts 3, we haven't had a proper, I say proper, so, don't go bashing me with a keyboard already. Well, you can if you want, I don't really care. But the point is that this will be the full proper third installment in the series for, what, like 15 years or so? So maybe a little bit less, give or take. I don't remember exactly when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, but you get my point. And here's where it also starts to get a little bit strange when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3, is that they plan to release Kingdom Hearts 3 by 2020. Now, they didn't say in 2020, they didn't say in 2018, they didn't say in 2019, they said by 2020. So what that means is that this game could, yes, potentially release at the end of 2017 out of nowhere. I highly doubt it, but it could also release randomly in 2018, could also release randomly in 2019. But the big thing they're aiming for is that, based on the progress that it's moving along and how it's going, is that they feel it's a realistic expectation to release it by the end of 2020. Obviously, things could pick up a little bit and it could release a little bit sooner, but chances are this is factoring in, slow progression, one or two possible delays, that it might get pushed back to 2020. But the fact is, why do I keep saying 2020, and why is this number, this year, and this release window a big deal? Well, let's look at it this way. Think of how big the Kingdom Hearts games are. Okay, the main series of Kingdom Hearts are pretty big. They're pretty big games, they're pretty expansive games, and naturally, they're AAA games. So they're going to cost a lot to make, especially in the likes of Kingdom Hearts, because you've got all the Disney licensing and the music licensing, all that as well. When you factor all of that in, development costs, time, manpower, this game, Kingdom Hearts 3, was officially announced and confirmed to be in development in 2013. So if this game does release in 2020, that is 7 years of development time. Is that too much? Personally, I think yes. I remember when they first showed off Kingdom Hearts 3 at the Sony conference of 2013, of E3 2013. I remember when they showed that off. And then, all the PlayStation fanboys went, suck it, Xbox One, we have Kingdom Hearts. And, then, like 2 minutes later, Square Enix just said, it's multi-platform. So I remember that being funny. But I remember seeing that video, and I was just thinking, there's no way this has been in development for a significant amount of time. It's way too early to have announced this game. Then, like 2 weeks later, one of the head guys at Square Enix, I think it was the director of Kingdom Hearts 3, came out and said, yes, I believe it was too early to show this, but they forced me to show it. So you see my point. When I'm talking about development time, how long it's progressing and how much it's progressing over the period of time. And yes, I think announcing a game 7 years in advance is a bad idea. Now, sure, they probably didn't expect it to take that long, but realistically, there's a point where you have to be able to say, okay, this game will be completed in 1 to 2 years. 1 year if we're good and everything goes well, 2 years if it's slow. Let's announce it now so we can have the game out in maybe 2 years. Not, this game is 5% complete, so we managed to just use the absolute base minimum of assets and animations and all we have to make a trailer. Let's slap it all together and announce it, and then just release it in 6, 7, maybe 10 years. That's a bad idea, and I think Square Enix were wrong to do that. Because who knows how this could go? I mean, for all we know, chances are it won't get cancelled. But for all we know, it could possibly get cancelled. 99% sure it won't, but you get my point. I just think announcing a game that short into development time and that far out from being complete, when they still have realistically no idea of when it would potentially release, and then it just leaving to be 7 years-ish or so from now, is a bad idea. And that brings me back to not Kingdom Hearts 3. That brings me on to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy VII Remake, we're obviously in 2017 at the moment. So if you are watching this, Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced 2 years ago. It was announced in E3 of 2015 at the Sony press conference. So, if they're doing the same thing, which they seem to be, just in the sense of, let's just announce a game that we have basically no progress on whatsoever, just to announce it, and then we can release it 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now. Again, I think that's a really bad idea. And when you look at the announcement for Final Fantasy VII Remake, that actual announcement had nothing in game. It was a CG trailer. I was going to say CGI, and then just it messed up completely, but CG trailer is what the official announcement was. It was essentially what they could just pawn off to a movie development studio or a CG computer generated studio just to do that stuff, because it didn't involve anything actual gameplay or development. Which of course brings us to the next part of the whole Final Fantasy VII thing. When the remake was announced, it was announced to have just being entered into development. So that is right at the start. So for a game, yes, even though the source material does technically exist, we obviously know they're going to do a lot to it to change all that, as well as rebuilding the entire game from the ground up. It's not a small undertaking, and it's going to require a serious amount of time investment, manpower investment, and monetary investment, all to get that done. And if they did that, they announced that in 2015, they're going to have to go balls to the wall to release that again by 2020. And that brings another question in. because we all know that the Final Fantasy VII remake is going to be episodic. How is that going to work? Are they going to do it in the sense that they want to have at least one part out by 2020? Do they want to have all parts out by 2020? Do they want to have like it underway with the rest of it in development by 2020? What's the deal here? That's another big thing as well, especially when we don't know how it's going to work. Granted, it's still a few years away, so there's plenty of time for them to fill us in on that aspect of it. But I just think it's a bit strange, and I think it's bad moves, essentially, from Square Enix's part to do that, because you're going to piss off a lot of people. If you announce a game that people want, and then say, yeah, this game, here, we're announcing this game, it'll be out in 8 years. You know, that's going to annoy a lot of people. Especially, I know I've said especially twice there, but Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII. For the reason is, Kingdom Hearts, ever since Kingdom Hearts 2, people have been clamoring and begging Square Enix for a new, proper, full installment of the Kingdom Hearts series. And all we've been getting was PSP games, remasters, 3DS games. You see my point. It's all small stuff. Sure, there's Kingdom Hearts 2.8, but it's basically just a demo. So when you look at all of that, and then we finally get the announcement of Kingdom Hearts 3, and then we're told, yeah, you'll see you in 25 years. See if anyone gets that reference. But you get my point. Same with Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII Remake. If Final Fantasy VII is probably the game that Square Enix has to be the most delicate with, because Final Fantasy VII is probably the game that made Square Enix what they are today. Well, technically it made Squaresoft what Squaresoft were. We all know Final Fantasy The Spirits Within was what made Square Enix what Square Enix is today. I'm sure many people will understand what I mean by that, but the point is, Final Fantasy VII skyrocketed the Japanese RPG genre and Square Enix and Squaresoft, I suppose, and Final Fantasy to the heights that it is today. And of course, if they mishandle or fuck anything up when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake, people are going to be out for blood. So they have to be really, really careful with that. So yes, even though these games do take several years to develop, I don't think companies should announce games just as they're entering development, because you're going to annoy people, you're going to piss people off. I can understand it to an extent where they want to drum up a little bit of hype and say, hey look, we're listening. Hey look, you have this to look forward to at some point in the future. But I think announcing a game that far out, to the point where you have absolutely no idea, even as a rough estimate, to when it could release, I think is just a negative overall. So we'll see how it goes. There's still a few more years. I mean, we're only halfway through 2017 at the moment, so we've got the end of 2017, we've got 2018, 2019, and all of 2020. So we've got about 3.5 years before these games could release or not release, or whatever the hell it is. Their possible planned release date, who knows. So we'll see what we learn in the meantime with stuff like Gamescom, the PlayStation Experience, E3, Tokyo Game Show, whatever there is. There's so much opportunity for these companies to let us know how the development is going, when to expect it, or whatever it is. Hopefully they don't turn into another Final Fantasy 15. We all know how that went, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So let me know in the comment section below. Do you think it's a mistake for companies to do this? Do you think it's a good decision? Where do you think is the middle ground? What do you think is the metric it should be measured against? Is it progress in the development cycle versus time? Or, is it just the time, or is it just the development cycle? Or is there something else that you consider that I haven't factored in? Let me know all of that in the comment section below, as well as what you think of the potential release dates for, or the potential projected release dates, there we go, of Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake by Square Enix. So let me know all of that in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.